Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Lawless podcast. And today we're joined by Annabel.
Hello.
And yeah, Annabel, if you'd just like to tell us a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, so I'm a second year accounting student at Durham, which is kind of obvious. And I'm quite active, I'd say, do all sorts of sports. I do like polo, shooting, lacrosse, football, all sorts of things. And yeah, just love getting involved, really.
Of course. So Annabel, where are you from?
I'm from Harpenden in Hertfordshire, which, yeah, just above London.
Nice, what's it like there?
It's pretty nice, actually. It's quite a commuter town, so it's literally 26 minutes from St Pancras. I sound like I'm doing an advert for it, actually.
Get ready. So you've sold them. People want to go now.
Yeah, exactly. It's a little town. It's got, just everything you really need. A few shops and a train line. Pub. Yep. Probably so many pubs, like 10, I'd say. There's a lot of pubs.
Just enough,
it's
I'd
good.
say. Yeah.
A lot, yeah.
Quality. So yeah, Annabel, tell us about accounting. What made you want to do accounting? Why are you doing accounting? What's
really good question. So I've always liked economics, but I did economics GCSE and then I did economics A-level, and I didn't particularly want to do more economics. No, I do enjoy economics. I just didn't want to continue doing the same thing. I quite liked sort of business, but then I'm dyslexic. I'm not very good at writing essays, so I was like, I kind of need something in between the two. And I wanted to go into private equity, and I was like, well, accounting would kind of set me up quite nicely. So I was like, yep,
here we go.
Let's give that a go. See how that goes.
Nice one. So private equity, what made you sort of want to get into that field?
So when I was younger, I wanted to do engineering, and because I liked solving problems, but I did quite a lot of work experience in engineering and found it quite interesting, but didn't really love it. Then I was like, well, what sort of things interest me? So I was like, well, economics, that sort of area, business, and then everyone sort of suggests investment banking, but I'd done quite a bit of sort of research into that. Quite a lot of, we had classes at school that were sort of about investment banking. I kind of liked it, but I didn't love it. So I was like, well, I kind of want something that looks a bit more holistically at the whole picture, really.
Yeah, not just one aspect.
Yeah, so I started talking to some friends and people that I knew, and they were like, well, have you thought about private equity? And I was like, yeah, actually that sounds quite good. So I did some work experience in that, and I really liked it, because you were looking a lot at what was going on the outside world as well as the company as a whole, and it wasn't really just as specific about tiny little bits in the company. It was quite looking at the bigger picture of things and solving a problem, which is kind of the part I liked. So yeah. Nice
one. So do you see yourself doing that as a career, long term, short term, or is that something you want to just have a little dabble in, or what's the sort of plan or no plan at all?
Yeah, so I think I'd like to go into it eventually. I'm going to go into tax first.
The tax man.
Yeah. So
Jordan, we can't show the papers, mate. No.
Yeah, keep them hidden away. Yeah, so I'm going into tax first, and then hopefully I'll get quite a good understanding for how companies really work from quite a slightly niche perspective. I know I've said I'm looking at the bigger picture, but I think it's quite interesting to tax impacts so much of a company's decisions, and even your own life decisions. A lot of it is influenced by tax, even though people don't really realise it. So I'll go into that for a while, and then sort of maybe 10-15 years, and then see how it gets me. Nice. Into private equity, really.
There's a lot of companies as well, they structure their tax in a much more efficient way than your average person or smaller businesses, because you need someone to understand the tax system, because then you can go, oi, why don't you just set up a shell company under a different name? Then you can not pay any tax, we'll just put it on the Virgin Islands, or home of our wonderful editor as well, the old Jersey. Come on, Guernsey. We got it. One of the two.
Yeah, you get a lot of people. I was talking to my granny when she used to do pensions regulations, and she said a lot of people just fall. The way that people get caught in doing all sorts of dodgy tactics is because people have just made really obvious mistakes. So I think having your taxes suitable and legal is very important, really.
It's very important. Making sure it's all above board, nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing underground, because people think they can get away with these sorts of things, but they just,
No, they can't.
No.
There's always someone there, like your granny, ready to get them.
Ready to get them, and so it's important to have your taxes all correct, really.
Nice one. So that's sort of future stuff, but let's go back to sort of the present. Polo, what's it about? Who plays it? How do you get into it? Yeah, tell us all.
Yeah, well, it's quite an interesting sport because it's quite perceived quite interestingly. Indeed. In comparison to the people that actually play it. So I think you have the sort of spectators of polo, and then you have the players of polo, and they're quite different people. People,
yeah.
It's quite it's seen as quite a sort of glamorous sport, and I think probably that comes from because there are very high costs with it, just because of the horse welfare. Like
looking after the horse.
You have proper athletic horses that need to be looked after, and that of course comes with the cost. But it's just like the most brilliant sport, really. It combines. To me, it sort of feels like real riding, which sounds a bit silly, but you have all sorts of disciplines, like you have your dressage and your show jumping, and it's all very nice, but doesn't feel very like
it's not real
natural.
riding.
Yeah. Whereas when you're like plummeting down a polo pitch at however many miles an hour, and like having other horses like sort of going up alongside you, it just feels absolutely incredible. So yeah, got into it at uni, having ridden since I was 4, and just have really loved it.
Nice one. So obviously have you gone in different disciplines with horse riding, or just sort of stuck to polo? Done like other stuff when you were younger? Or?
Yeah, so I've done literally every discipline possible, really, like dressage, show jumping, cross country. Really just love all sorts. My favourite thing was always doing gymkhanas when I was younger. They were all just about like racing on your horses. So really, I just quite like going fast. I think it's probably
going fast on the horse. That's it.
Probably where that actually comes from.
Nice one. So the actual sport of polo, how is it played? Like.
Yeah, so you have 3 to 4 players. So younger, lower levels of polo, and then also in arena polo in winter, you have 3 players, and then it moves up to having 4 players, and you have different positions, but that's all a bit technical. So in essence, it's you have the ball's thrown in the middle, and you have to get it into your goal. So it's a bit like most sports, really, but it's less about passing. Say like in football, you might pass it out to the side and pass it up and whatnot, and you're getting tackled. It's more in polo. It's more about sort of a streamline up the pitch to goal, really, I'd say. And you can tackle each other on the horses, which is called like riding off. Okay. So you'll be going to hit the ball, going up the pitch, and someone can just, because you can't cross in front of a horse. Because it's dangerous. Yeah. You have to use your horse's body to move their horse's body out of the way.
So you like push their horse with your horse?
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
To get them out of the way, so you can get possession of the ball.
Yeah.
Because you're not allowed to just whack it. It's like the easiest way of imagining playing polo is probably being on the motorway. You have to be in your lane, really. So you can't go just across the motorway sideways, because you're going to get hit by a horse.
Exactly, can't do that.
Very, very illegal. So it's all about the horse safety, so you have to use your horse's body to move their horse out the way if you want to make any advancements, really.
Nice. So you can't like dribble with the ball, you just hit it when you get to it, or?
Yeah, so you can dribble and do hits. It depends what sort of what the game is looking like. So you could get the person at the back to do a massive hit all the way up and to one of the other players, or if you're getting closer to the ball, you can like dribble it and keep more possession. You can slow down the game, you can speed it up. There's all sorts. If it's all getting quite cramped, you might want to do a big hit so it opens everyone up. But if you're sort of on your own near goal, you can just
smack it in. Yeah.
Smack it
so
in.
There's not a goal? Is there a goalie, or how's it?
No, there's not a goalie. It's just sort of 2 posts, really.
And just bang, and it goes.
And
there are defenders. What are different positions called? Yeah.
So there's 1, 2, 3, and 4, and the number 4 and 3, they're sort of the more experienced on the team with the bigger hits. So their role is really to get the ball from one end all the way up to the other end with the goal. So they'll probably do the bigger hits, really open the game of play up. And then number 1 and number 2 will more likely be taking an opponent, so they'll try and get the opponent out of the way for the ball, and then the number 1 will try and get the ball when they receive it and get it into goal. Really
nice.
Yeah,
that's it. So if someone wants to get involved, let's say I've just gone, you've inspired me, it's time for some polo, what am I doing? Like, how do I get involved?
So I'd say definitely the best way of getting involved is at university, because the clubs are just way more accessible. You're joining with other people that are like a similar level, probably haven't done it before, and it's much cheaper as well, which is like quite good. But I think that's really the easiest way, especially at university, because then you don't have to join a club. You don't know what the club's going to be like, you don't know the club atmosphere until you've joined, and then you'll start doing lessons, but you might be doing them on your own. It's quite nice to be playing with other people that all are quite similar level, yeah. all equally as rubbish at the start, which is always handy. And then actually at Durham we drive 2 hours to go to our lessons, so, and at first I was like, oh no, I don't really want to drive 2 hours. Wow. But some of my like really close friends have come from Polo, and actually that drive down is probably one of my favorite bits of the day. Just you get to hang out and chat to people for 2 hours without having to do anything else. It's pretty ideal in the end.
Ideal. So yeah, is it sort of like a league, like a tournament, or how does that work?
Yeah, so actually we've got nationals this weekend upcoming, so that's sort of the main competition. There's summer and winter nationals, and that's really just all of the other unis playing against each other. So that's really nice actually, that you get to not only play with like other uni students, but you can compete against them as well, which is pretty good, and it's all quite a similar level, so it's nice.
Nice one. So did you do this at secondary school then as well, or?
No, so I literally started at uni. I've been interested in starting polo for quite a while, and then I just didn't really know how to get into it really, and the clubs nearby, the closest was an hour, and I was like, I don't really want to join somewhere an hour away to just not really end up enjoying the sport, or it was all quite a big leap to sort of join. And I was like, well, if I just start at uni, don't really have too much to lose, can give it a go. They do taster sessions here at Durham. They brought the horses up to MC, and then there's like a riding stable across the road, so they did tasters there, which was really exciting.
Nice one. So just to go back a little bit more in time here, your time at secondary school, what was that like? And what would you sort of say about it?
Yeah, it was quite mixed, different parts of it. So I had my initial bit of secondary school, like year 7 to 11. I was at one school, and then I changed for sixth form, and I didn't particularly enjoy the initial bit of it, but absolutely loved my sixth form. So it's quite a mix. Mainly, I've always really enjoyed my like academic work, so I didn't particularly find that of any that didn't really change the whole way through really. But I've always quite enjoyed that, but I found socially it was quite tricky at my initial school because it was quite cliquey, and then found moving to my next school, I actually went from a mixed school to a boys' school, but they had like a few girls at sixth form. I found that was quite a really good atmosphere actually for me, and it just worked really nice. It was very laid back socially as a school. Everyone was just pretty happy. So
would you say for the sixth form, could you tell the boys there had gone to an all boys school?
It was quite funny at this. And I remember on the first day going into the common room, and it was quite clear which boys had talked to a girl before and which boys
some
hadn't.
Of them hadn't at all.
Some of them were just sort of staring aimlessly, like, oh my word. And they were slightly worried about what we were going to do. I remember some of the boys telling me that I was friends with already. They were like, some of the boys are really worried about what the girls are going to change to the school. Is it going to be really different? I think they were quite nervous about it. But you could definitely tell which boys sort of had sisters and which boys sort of had spoken to girls before and which boys completely hadn't. It was quite entertaining. I think I found the thing most interesting was in class when you'd put your hand up or argue with them. They'd be like, oh, can I, because like they'd be like, oh, can I argue back? I'm not really sure.
They didn't think they could argue
like,
back?
Yeah, they were always slightly shy away from it, which was quite funny. Whereas if one of their friends said something, they'd completely like
sort of rip into them,
and then it took like 2 weeks until that started with the girls.
So the nicety stopped, and then it was just gloves off.
Exactly, it was. I didn't have to open a door for a very long time until they realised that girls were just the same as everyone else.
So, I don't have to hold the door. Shit, okay. Fair.
Exactly. No, it was a really nice atmosphere, which is quite
nice.
good.
So when I say like boys from a boys' school, could you tell that like there was a sort of like all sort of male environment, and that sort of still rubbed off at the sixth form, or would you say that sort of didn't really see any of that sort of stuff?
I'd say the boys definitely were quite protective over their friends that were boys, because when you see like boys in a sports team, they like love their boys. Like there was quite a bit of that, but there wasn't as much of the. I thought it could be kind of a bit more, we don't really like women environment, but it was more just slightly homoerotic between them all. Like they just all love each other so much. They were worried about the girls like ruining their like bromances, really. So
fair enough.
I thought they're all like very very nicely mannered and whatnot, and they're quite masculine boys, but they were like really quite soft with each other, which is quite nice and sweet.
Nice. So going back to your secondary school, you said about sort of like cliques. What was that like, and what was the sort of impact on you of it?
Yeah, I think it was really tricky, because I think when you're at that age, that's how you sort of learn what friendships are like in your interactions with other people. I mean, you learn it a bit earlier, but you don't properly learn it, I would say, until your teenage years. And it was quite interesting, because I would say it was just quite tricky, because everyone had a group, and if you weren't in the group, then you didn't really have friends, which in real life that's not how it works. Like if anyone looks at their parents and their friendships, like none of my parents have like their set friendship groups. Like they have friends they'll see more and other friends, but they have friends from all different times and all different parts of life. And I think it's quite hard to see that when you're at secondary school, especially because you kind of really unless you've like moved area, you kind of just have your friends from your primary school, and then you have your friends from secondary school, and that sort of and then maybe some family friends, but you kind of have friends all from a quite set place, so it seems completely the end of the world if you're in a friendship group and then you get kicked out because you're like, I have absolutely no friends. Of course you have friends from all sorts of hobbies and whatnot, but
it's not just one place.
It's quite hard to see, and I think it made me quite anxious about whether people wanted to be friends with me or not. Like I put a lot of my self-worth on whether I was in these friendship groups or not in these friendship groups, whereas really doesn't really matter if anyone. Well, obviously it's nice that if people like you, but it doesn't make you better or worse.
Doesn't define yourself.
Yeah, exactly. No. Like if you're a horrible person and no one likes you, I mean that's probably because you're being a horrible person, but like just because this one girl doesn't want to be friends with you, like doesn't mean your entire life is awful and you're worthless, really.
Exactly. So like with that, it was, so I'm just trying to put this together in my head. You had a group which you and this girl were part of, and then she for some reason had an issue with you.
Yeah.
Was that reason given? Was that actually a tangible thing?
No, there were absolutely no no concrete reason. Just didn't want me to be in their friendship group anymore. And then of course, almost when there's not a concrete reason, your head almost creates the reason for why.
You find the reason.
And you're like, well, it must be because I'm really weird. Must be just no one likes me. I must just like not be cool enough, or whatever reason. So you come up almost with your own little bit of bullying to yourself of why this person wouldn't want to be friends with you. And then I think you then take that in going and like into your like new friendships. Like I remember when I'd gone into sixth form and someone was like, oh, do you want to come for lunch with me? And I was like, what? Like
me? Yeah. Lunch?
I was like, is that okay? And they were like, what do you mean, is that okay? And I was like,
wow.
Yeah, because we had to go up into town for lunch, and I remember being quite nervous about it initially, because I was like, well, what if no one wants to have lunch with me? And then I found like within like a week, like I could just go up to someone and be like, oh, do you want to go for lunch? And they'd be like, yeah, of course. Or if people were going for lunch, I felt like I had to ask initially, whereas by then you just sort of join them. Yeah, but I thought it was so strange. I think to think that I needed everyone else's approval to just go for lunch. Like it's
such a simple trivial thing. But yeah, no, it's so interesting. I think the thing I really took from that is like, when you don't know, you sort of fill it in. So it's like your mind will go, right, I have this information. It's like a jigsaw. If you're like a quarter of the jigsaw, your mind's going to go, right, well, the other 3/4 must look like this. Because of what I have, the knowledge I have, this must be, relevant to this and make this picture. So someone who probably has a lot of self-projection issues that are coming on to me must mean that I have an issue with myself.
Yeah.
Obviously that is wrong, but your mind doesn't operate in a rational way. It operates in an emotional way. So, it just fills the gaps, and then the sort of personal insecurities shit comes through.
Yeah, exactly.
Even though it has no place coming through.
Yeah.
So I think that also goes for like when people first meet each other, like in a sort of like a relationship situation, because like very little about someone, they're good looking sort of thing, and then your mind's gonna go, right, they must be this idealistic person.
Yeah.
And then this is the ideal person. They must be like that. Bang. And then you sort of like get to know him more and more and more, and you're like, hang about. This isn't this ideal thing that I had in my head.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, although they're probably a lovely person, because they're not your expectation, it's not the same. It's like expectation crushes happiness, because you're gonna want something that doesn't exist. It's in your mind. That's the only place that exists.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my mum always says low expectations is the key to happiness, and she always sort of says it in jest, but it's actually quite poignant, because if you think someone's going to be this incredible person, or you put a lot of pressure on, say, even just like your friend to be a certain way, when they've not done that, they've not actually been a bad friend or been a bad person in a relationship. They've just not been what you expected them to be, and you've ended up disappointing yourself, even though they've not actually done anything disappointing. You sort of just manifested it.
Exactly. Another thing that one of my friends said to me is that we sort of put our own standards onto others, and we expect them to be the same as us.
Yeah.
And that's very, very unfair, because everyone's at different points in their life, different life journeys, and you're just going to sort of not connect to as many people as you could. Yeah. Because, if I'm like, right, the requirements to be my friend, you've got to do X, Y, Z, be this, be that. Like, no, there's no need for that. It's just, again, it's the projection of your inner self coming out. Yeah. Because how you view others is a projection of yourself. It's just completely. It's just you coming onto them. So that girl was probably going through some shit.
Yeah.
But because when you're so young, you don't operate like that. You don't think about that on a high level. You just think, she's being mean to me, therefore it must be my fault. However, it's actually, she's being mean to me because something's going on with her.
Yeah, exactly.
So next time, someone's addicted, and that sounds really weird, sort of that turn the other cheek sort of thing. Like, if someone's been addicted to you, just go, why? And also, are you okay?
Yeah.
Not just like, like, seriously, are you okay? Like, I don't care, you may have said a few mean things to me, but like, that's just sort of like a hint. It's like a tell that something's going on with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I always giggle at my friend. I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but whenever something's going wrong in a situation, normally when we're playing polo, he always shouts my name, and it'll be like him going for the ball and missing it or something, and then
he'll sort of like,
and he'll be like, Annabel, and I'll be like, I can't do anything about it. Like, it's not my fault, and he'll do it in all sorts of situations. I just find it always quite funny that it's just got nothing to do with me, but his instant thought is to do it.
Just sort of says you. Yeah.
Oh, it can't be me.
Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing?
What are you doing?
What do I do? Oh, nothing. Shit. Oh, okay.
It's like, I can't really help you.
It's not really on the same side of the pitch, you mate. Like, what we're doing, like. No, I think that's such a interesting sort of topic to look at. And again, with like relationships wise, when it's that first meeting, you go, right, they have to be this way, they must be this way.
Yeah.
And the thing that I think was really weird as well, like, this is from the male and female people doing this, like, they're saying that, this list, this is my list of what a guy must be like. This huge list, this tapestry rolls out. Got to be X, Y, Z, tick this box, this colour hair, this colour eyes. And I think that's the human tendency to sort of want to try and make order out of chaos.
Yeah, completely.
It's because when you can sort of go, tick, 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 right, it must be like this, then you sort of regain control of it. Whereas in reality, it's meant to be chaotic and, uncontrollable and sort of wild, and not this, You know, right, tick, yep, done that.
Yeah.
Sorry, mate, you haven't actually got green eyes, but you know, you're a bit of a shit bloke.
I think
Sorry,
we can
mate, that's it.
compromise there, yeah.
Yeah, right, we let that off. Yep, you're all right, okay. And then, you know, you've done all right there. So add it up, right, okay, you got to score a 15 out of 30.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, this time you have failed.
But maybe
Interviews
next
open
time.
again next time, then you're in. No, it's just, I don't know, it's just, yeah, it's not the way, in my opinion.
Yeah, really. I think it also creates so much like stress on yourself to find this person that ticks every single box, and you're probably limiting yourself from, especially if you put yourself down to sort of like very surface level features, like say you've gone for hair colour, or if you've gone for I like loads of my friends like, I really want to get out with the guy that shoots, and I was like, well, what if you meet someone that doesn't shoot, and you're automatically going, well, that's it, but
we're done.
Like,
he's written off. He actually shoots target and not clay pigeon. Sorry, mate, just fuck off. Don't care.
Yeah, and then they could have been the love of your life, but you've just
spin them off.
Just gone, sorry.
Yeah.
Or they've worn like, I don't know, a hoodie over, like, I don't know, maybe you liked a crew neck jumper instead of a hoodie, and well, there you go.
That's it. You're done, mate.
Yeah, I always find I'm really conscious of like how I view people from that sort of sense, because like I always worry that I always worry that my expectations of someone are going to actually just limit myself, and then you've not actually had any good expectations for anyone really. You've just ended up lessening yourself in a way.
Yeah, just talking about yourself through them in like a weird sort of way.
Yeah, exactly, projecting on what they should look like and whatnot. It was like, I always find it quite interesting when you see people in relationships where the one tends, and it's normally the girl ends up like buying the other's clothes, and it's like, well,
really?
and they like always end up starting where, like, quite a few of my friends actually, like, they'll buy their like boyfriend clothes, or they'll help them with their shopping, and it's like kind of sweet in that sort of a way, but then you're like, well, are you just dressing them into like molding them into your little perfect boyfriend? What?
It's like, you know, I think I saw the quote, it's like you can't change people around you, but you can change the people around you.
Yeah.
So like, you know, it's me going, right, okay, I like what I see, but you know, I'd rather you change this way. But what, you can't change people. Yeah. Obviously, I think I saw this thing. It's like people are willing to change for the one. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? But if you're not the one, then people aren't going to be willing to change. Yeah. That's sort of what I've.
And also, like, if you try and change, then you're going to be with this person for the rest of your life, and you can't. Like, why would you want to? If you just change one aspect, then you're going to just find other aspects that you want to keep changing. Whereas if you just go, right, I like them because they've got rubbish hair or whatnot,
sort of thing.
Like, you're going to be much happier, because I think relationships and marriage is all about compromise, really, because you've got to come up with your life together, but perhaps in your life you've seen yourself living in, say, I don't know, Suffolk, and they've seen themselves living in Kent. You've got to find somewhere where you both want to live.
The other Sheppy.
Yeah, and
right in the middle.
Yeah, if you can't do that from the start, then you're not going to get better at it when it comes to the larger decisions, and you're just going to keep arguing about it, really.
Exactly. Like, if you can't even compromise over what their bloody wardrobe looks like, you know, what are you going to do there? Like, yes, it's really, really interesting. I think another thing that I think is really cool is like magnetism. Hear me out here. Like, everyone has a sort of like energy you put out. Sort of like, you go, whoa, I like this guy's energy, or like, oh, that's some shit energy from this person, and you can sort of tell, although you can't see it, you can feel it. And like, you know, when you just instantly meet someone, you can kind of sort of tell, like, it's that love at first sight sort of thing. So I think that's where this comes from. It's sort of the two sort of magnetic fields going, yeah, this is the shit, this is the same thing, as opposed to sort of two. You know, imagine if you had two magnets. Yeah. You're putting them, the two ends, two norths, to trying to get them together. What happens? Yeah, okay. Forced apart. You know, but if you have north and south, they connect. So it's the same sort of thing. It's like you can instantly tell if it's going to work. But some people, because like they'll go, right, well, especially for guys, we have a tendency to go, well, they're fit, so that must mean they tick every box. Yeah, exactly. You know, so, you know, let's disregard everything else because, you know, they have nice eyes. Yeah. So you've just got to go, you know, let's look at something holistically and not just one piece of the pie. Yeah, exactly. Is it objectively good, or is it actually
Yeah, you've got to. I think, especially when you have like a crush on someone and you put them on this like really high platform of what they are, and you sort of almost like convince yourself that you're attracted to them, and then maybe you'll see them in a different setting or something, and you're like, oh, why have I been fancying them for like the past month? I'm not actually attracted to them. I just sort of have come up with this idea that this person would be fantastic to go out with, and then you see them and you're like, oh, I don't know why I did that.
You're like, what am I doing there? Yeah, like, what is this? No, it is very, very interesting. I think for sort of girls, what if you had to like weight it, personality, looks, would you say it's about balanced, one or more than the other sort of thing, or?
I'd say it's probably more on personality than looks, and probably the looks could be like, I'd say it's probably more attraction than looks, because you can sort of see someone and they're like objectively attractive, but it doesn't mean you're attracted to them. So I think it's probably more like, I'd say definitely higher personality, but then I'd say instead of looks, probably more attraction. And yeah.
Nice. So sort of like, how do you see attraction?
I'd say probably not in a like really hippie way, but sort of like a vibe. Like I saw a Durfest the other day that was like, oh, anyone that says vibe is so annoying. And I've been really conscious of saying vibe. But yeah, if you just sort of got like the same sort of energy level and the same engagement, and I think like the same sort of level of engagement in other activities is quite interesting, because if you like go out with someone who like wakes up and they're like, oh, what am I doing today? And they're like, oh, just sit down and do nothing. You're not going to work very well with someone who's like, well, I want to get up and do everything today, because you're going to like, one of you's want to, like when you're like living together, one of you's just going to want to stay at home all day, the other's going to be out, and it's all going to create a bit of an interesting dynamic. So I think that contributes to attraction in that sense. That sort of same, like if you're a high energy level person or a low energy level person, or if you're just fascinated by things or not fascinated by things, like I think that's a sort of more compatible thing to look at, really.
So I think it's less about the actual thing, more about the attitude and energy going towards said thing.
Yeah, exactly.
So you could have both high energy about, shooting or horse riding.
Yeah.
You can both be really passionate about these individual things, although obviously there is some overlap. They are separate, atomistic, points, and despite that, you can still come together because it's the attitude and energy that make it work.
Yeah, definitely.
And that literally, what you just said there is the same thing I'm saying there with the magnetism. It's just different words for the same thing.
Yeah.
Because when something's such a massive cultural phenomenon, it's just interpreted and verbalised in different ways.
Yeah.
So that's sort of, what that is.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
But yeah, to sort of move on a little bit, sort of like spirituality and sort of Christianity in that way.
Yeah,
what has been your relationship with Christianity, and how did it all start?
Yeah, so I've been Christian since literally since I was born. It feels like I've literally always been to church, and I think a lot of people sort of criticize that sort of thing. They're like, well, it's not really your own thought, you've just always gone to church. But I've definitely found my own way through it, and always questioned what's sort of been said, and found my own sort of viewpoint on things and on different parts of the church. But I think I've always, ever since I was really little, like had a really strong faith in God. And I was telling you the other day about how when my brother was born, he was born at 24 weeks, and I remember that was, especially at the time, it was just not very likely that he was going to live at all. And I remember kept telling my parents, I was like, well, you've always told me to have faith in God. You need to have faith in God. He's going to be absolutely fine. So I've always had a very strong feeling of faith. I've always been quite a strong, I've always had that sort of backing me the whole way through my life. And I think even when people at school would like be like, well, why are you Christian? Like I was always not too like it was quite hard, and I almost felt a bit embarrassed. I almost felt like embarrassed to tell people I was Christian when I was young, like sort of those teen years. But I always have, even through them, found that that's something quite strong to me, and also that I've like found that quite comforting when things are going wrong in life. Like, I'm quite happy to turn to God and just be like, okay, it's going to be fine. Just relax.
Exactly. So sort of like giving stuff over to God, being like,
Yeah.
I'm not carrying the weight on my shoulders anymore. It's sort of moved off.
Yeah, completely.
Exactly. So to sort of someone who isn't Christian,
Yeah.
How would you describe faith?
I'd describe it as very emotive. I'd say it's more of a feeling, and it's quite it's quite like an on the chest sort of feeling. Like, just that comfort that comes from it is like something I think people chase a lot, and I think people chase it sort of through meditation. You have all sorts of like I remember I had some therapy when I was younger, and I remember her saying to me, she was like, well, if you just put your worries in this box and lock it in your cupboard. And I was like, okay. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, it kind of works. I've put my put my worries there, but it doesn't really compare to that feeling of if you're thinking through it and you just go, okay, it's fine. You've just got to trust God, and this is going to be fine in some sort of a way. And I think, although the two feelings like that, putting your worries in a box, is the same idea, it's not got that same of emotional connection to it, or that true faith and that true comfort to it. So I think if I were to describe it as a feeling, I'd say it's close to that, putting your worries in a box, but it's that putting your worries in a box and there actually being sort of like an outcome of it.
Exactly. It's not just like a sort of bin which goes in and stays. It sort of goes somewhere and action is occurring from said sort of passing of the worry.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so what has been your sort of experience being a sort of Christian at Durham? How has that been?
Yeah, it's been quite interesting actually. I think Durham's quite a Christian place in terms of students in comparison to some other unis, but I think it's been quite interesting sort of finding a way to sort of be not finding a way to be Christian at uni, but sort of finding a way to practice Christianity at uni. I think it's been quite interesting because there are so many different churches, and I sort of have dabbled with quite a few churches for quite a while, and there's still like quite a few I go to, but I say like I primarily now go to the cathedral, which I found has suit me quite well. But then I also it doesn't really have that same student body, so I'm still going to another church because I really enjoy having people my age that are Christian and people that you can talk to there, even though I still go to the cathedral as well.
No, exactly, because there's sort of the two aspects of it. It's sort of the community aspect and sort of the actual service and sort of being in the building itself.
Yeah. Which
obviously, they're two sides of the same coin, but you need both sides of the coin,
Exactly. And I think it's been easier at uni, like in comparison to school. Like, it's easier to be Christian. Like, no one really, like, people ask you about it, but more out of curiosity rather than
judgment at all.
Yeah, rather than being, oh, that's so weird. Or maybe they are. I just don't get told it. But
you're not gonna set your face, are they?
Whereas at school, people would quite happily tell you all sorts to your face. But I think people are quite understanding, quite like find it interesting, and I think quite a lot of people, particularly like my friends, a lot of my friends are Christian, but I think those that aren't, they find it really interesting and almost want to know about it rather than being like, well, so weird, what are you doing on
that?
Yeah, exactly.
I think I've read as well online, it's like the first Bible people read is a person who's Christian. So them seeing you where you are, sort of that's they're like, whoa, what's this? This is counterculture, because Christianity is now counterculture.
Yeah.
The mainstream is not this. It's everything but this, and that's where people are so like, what is this? Like, why don't you do this? What's the reason? Everyone else does it. Why don't you? And like,
exactly.
This is the reason why, and they're like, oh shit. Okay. So it's a very valid point there. Like, oh yeah, why am I doing that? Like, so it is interesting. It's sort of like, as well, taking it on board and making it fit your life as well, because obviously you're not going to read the Bible word for word objectively, because obviously it's been translated loads anyway, and the message could be different depending on how you read it, so interpreting it objectively is impossible because it's words, it's not maths, so you can't do that. So I think, like, I don't know, would you would you say it's been sort of hard to sort of live a Christian life here, or?
I'd say it sort of is and sort of isn't, because in some aspects it's easier because you are surrounded by a lot of people that are Christian. But I'd say in other aspects it's sort of harder, because I think that people expect uni to be this like massive rebellion of how you behave and what you get up to, and your parents don't know what's going on and what not, and I think people see it as this big sort of excuse to go and do all sorts of random things. But I think I don't view uni in that same way. Like, I'd say I've got even closer with my parents through uni, and actually, like, I chat to them about all sorts of different things I probably wouldn't have spoken to them about when I was younger. We have a really good relationship, I think, because and I don't really hide from what I do at uni from my parents. Like, I'm quite transparent with them about everything. But I think a lot of people view uni as a sort of getting away from your parents and getting away from your structure and rules, and therefore treat things differently and I think that can be where it's harder to be Christian at uni, because people are doing a lot of things or acting in a different way than perhaps they usually would, if that makes sense.
Exactly. So for me, I think I was talking about this before we started recording now, but like, it's that sort of pendulum swing. So when I was in like year 7 to 9, as anyone who knew me then would vouch, I was not the most well-behaved young lad. So I sort of got it out of my system then, like the sort of rebellion, the sort of not doing what I'm told, sort of like, doing no work sort of thing. And then, I did that and I was like, I don't really enjoy this. It's not really benefiting me in any way. It's just kind of pointless.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, I might as well do some work now, see what that's like, see what the other side's like, you know? And then, because I was always told, if you actually do something, you'll be good, you'll begin like, shut up, mate, you're just trying to say that sort of to do something. And then I was like, it's now year 10, it's time to buck my ideas up, because it's quite important now. And then everyone else had just been being all good from year 7 to 9, and now they're just, throwing it down the pan when it actually counts. Yeah. And I was actually, putting in the hours when it counted. And then when people come here, they've probably done the same thing at sixth form, been really, really good. Yeah. And they come here and they're like, right, gloves are off now. Parents are other side of the country. Yeah. Let's crack on. Like, but because I was so bad then, it's made that now I don't have any desire to do it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I've always found that. Like, I found with drinking, like my family's like French and Dutch, and they have a different sort of approach to alcohol. So it's always been quite like an enjoyment thing. It's always been there. So to me, like, it's not that exciting getting. Yeah. Like, I think my parents have brought me up quite well in that, like, in regards to that, because they've always, like, if they're having wine, they've always let me have a sip, even when I was like 8 or whatever. They'd just be like, well, yeah, of course. And I've never seen it as like that exciting. Like,
so, wow, it's some wine. It's like, whatever.
Like, yeah. Oh, you always have wine. Like, it's not. Yeah.
Exactly. Whereas imagine if you came from a house where through sixth form your parents were like, Annabel, don't you dare touch that wine. Yeah. And you come in, you're like, right, the parents are away, just crack out the wine. Yeah, exactly. Like, you get completely different.
Yeah, and you'd go and you wouldn't know how it's going to affect you, and you'd get it very wrong.
No tolerance, and just have a wrong night. Get it wrong.
Yeah, and I have accidentally got it wrong before, but everyone has to have got it.
You have to get it wrong.
You have to get it a bit wrong until you get it right, and then you're pretty fine.
You sort yourself out.
Yeah,
exactly. I think that applies to anything really. It's like, it's what you don't know, you're curious about, and sometimes fear, or sometimes get like, whoa, what is this? So it depends, with Christianity as well. It's the same thing. Like, if you don't know, you fill in the gaps. Yeah, it's the same thing. If you don't know, you fill in the gaps. So you go, right, well, I've been told by X, Y, Z, public sort of popular culture thing that this means this, therefore it has to mean this because I think it does. Like, even if it's the objective truth is miles and miles off, completely. It doesn't matter, because in your head that's what it is. And that goes back to that sort of like concept of perception being reality. Yeah. Because have you seen that thing? I think I said this last episode as well, but like in Harry Potter, and then in the train station, yeah. And he's like, Harry's like to Dumbledore, Professor, is this all in my head? And he goes, of course it is, Harry. But why does that mean it's not real? But it's the same thing. It's like, it's all in your head, but it is real. Like, even objectively, like, everything is in your head, because this table is just coming into my head as lights. Yeah. It's just atoms. It's all happening in here. And how it's happening in here and how it's happening in your head is a completely different thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we all just think it's all the same. They all perceiving stuff in the same way. So even with words, the way people speak is like you tell someone what they've said back to them just to clarify you've got it right.
Yeah, exactly.
Because how I use a word may mean completely different things. Like a weird example of this is the word peak. So peak could mean like the peak of a mountain. Peak is in that's rubbish, or peak is in that's really good.
Yeah.
Depending on who you're talking to and in what context.
Yeah.
So that must be a bloody nightmare to a language learner, English language learner, yeah. But like, it's the same thing. Like how people perceive stuff is their reality. So if you don't know about something, and if you're fearful of something, just jump in, dive in. Don't go, don't do that thing. That's really far out there and scary. What you're most scared of is the things you have to do most. That's why it works. It's the whole thing. It's like telling you, right, you need to do this thing. Here's a bit of fear. Do it, because your body's using the emotional system to go, we need to motivate this individual to do this thing. How do we do it? Let's lose the emotional system and get them to do it.
Yeah, I remember when I was younger, I used to be really bad at doing things I would found difficult, and now I really enjoy doing things I find most difficult, because I think you to get better, you're not going to get better by repetition of the same level. You're going to get better if you repeat things that you've done badly. Like the other day, we had a shooting competition at the weekend, and we were coming back down the next day, and we're picking up the guns from the grounds, and my friend was like, well, whilst we're here, we may as well just shoot some clays. And I was like, okay, perfect. And I was like quite looking forward to just going on shooting some clays, hitting them. And he was like, no, we're going to go and hit all the ones that were missed or shot badly. And I was like, okay.
Makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Kind of just wanted to relax and just do some whack.
Do something in my comfort zone, yeah.
Yeah, but then I was like, I'm not going to get better. So we literally went to all the hardest traps and the ones that I scored rubbishly on. And he was like, right, we're just going to do it until you can whack them out of the air like they're nothing. And actually felt so much better at the end of the day for having done the ones that I was not enjoying the day before and was finding quite difficult. So I think I think part of having that perspective to push yourself from, because it only comes from yourself, your improvement is actually what's going to make your life easier in the long run, is having all those difficult bits and having the awkward conversations in life, or the things you find difficult. If you just keep going with them and pushing yourself more, you're going to be fine. I tend to try and do as one thing a day that I don't enjoy doing, or something that's slightly pushes me. It's like when you're younger, I don't know if my parents would always make me go up and ask for something if I wanted it in the restaurant, or yeah, and I just couldn't even imagine.
Go on, ask them, and you're like,
just don't want to. But if you think about it, if you didn't do that, then sometimes I know some people that just can't ask for something in a restaurant.
Now.
Yeah. And you're like, well, if you can't ask for something in a restaurant, you're not going to ask for a pay rise later in life, or you're not going to ask for anything
what you want. You're not going to ask for it.
You're not going to ask. And quite often, if you ask people, they'll quite happily say yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen, there's this guy that has a series on YouTube, and it's goes through rejection therapy basically, and he does 100 days of asking people things that people normally say no to. And he was at the start really scared, and he was I don't really want to do this. It'd be all sorts of things. I could be can I plant this pot in your garden, and really just weird stuff. And then by the end, he found most of the time people would just say yes to all these really random things, just because the guy had asked them to.
Don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah,
that's it.
So,
and that's the thing. The way the mind works as well is it's this whole thing called the generative principle, which is thoughts, feelings, emotions, then action. Action's the final stage. So it's already gone through this entire process in your head, and most people get it up to emotion. So you're emotional about a topic. You're emotional enough to be able to do the topic. Because if the emotion wasn't there, obviously you wouldn't do it, but it's there. So you're right, I have to do this thing. And the way I found is if you just have to do it. Don't think, just do. Because I remember this time I was at a service station, so I was coming back from Snowdon with my mates. We just climbed it, and we was just chilling there, and I saw this guy with a Lambo just there, and I was like, you know what I fancy doing? Sitting in a Lambo. So I just walked up to the bloke and was like, you know what, mate? And he's like, yeah, how you doing? I'm like, I'm well. And then he goes, I'm like, yeah, is it alright if I sit in your car? And he's like, yeah. And I just sat in his car, and it was just like, it was so weird. And I was like, fair, cheers. And it's like, if when I see someone with like a nice dog in Durham, I'll just go, can I stroke your dog? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, most people will say yes to most things. Yeah. Like, you just got to ask, have the bollocks to ask. Yeah. I think it's another quote I read as well. It's like, your reality expands or decreases depending on how confident you are. Yeah. Because imagine what it must be like being that person who can't go, can I have fish and chips, please? They can't do it. They can't do it because in their head, it's just like, imagine a task, but every single time you don't do the task, another brick is put on the wall between you and the task. And then the more and more and more you do, the higher the wall gets, and the harder it gets. And it's like, well, I've never walked up to a girl in the club before, so I can't do that. And then every other time I've tried to do it, I just haven't done it. And then you're finally going to do it, and it's taken so much because you've got to kick down a fucking wall as opposed to stepping over a brick. Yeah. And then now you're like, oh, that's fine. That's and it's not been bad. And I've now, it's been fine. Like, what? But I think it takes that step. It's either a step or a kick or a bulldozer. It's your choice, depending on what you take. Because again, it's the sort of like the whole human mind thing of, running away from pain, running towards pleasure. It's more pleasurable, more in your comfort zone to go, it's not, I don't really want to take that risk because risk means possibility of failure. Yeah, exactly. And I think as soon as you sort of work out how you can cope with failure, you're actually, it's not as bad. Like, some things are really upsetting, but in reality, you've not died. Your life, you are alive. You're still fine. Going on. And at the end of the day, you've got a good answer to an interview question, really. So you're that's what it's all about. Getting them questions, Yeah, I always find as well, confidence is completely, you can fake your own confidence until you find your confidence. So, like, this is probably one of the silliest things that I do in my head, but I used to be like quite nervous when leaving the house and just walking through town. I was like, people are looking at me. And then I was like, well, if I just tell myself that they're looking at me because they find me attractive, I'm gonna just not care that they're looking at me. Like, I'm gonna just walk more confidently. I found, like, now I don't even think about people like looking at me because I like faked it into my head that people were just like looking at me for a good reason, not because my outfit was weird or they thought my hair looked rubbish. Like, I used to like go out thinking like, oh, everyone's looking at me because most of the time no one's looking at you. Like, most of the time no one cares at all. Like, I can't really remember what anyone I walked past today looked like, but in your head you seem to think it's all of it. So all quite scary. Two things I would unpack. First thing is this concept in psychology called the spotlight effect, where you feel that you're under the spotlight and everyone's looking at you and it's all this stuff. And I'm at a point now where I do stuff just for the shits and giggles of it. I'll push the social boundaries just because I can. Yeah, it's so funny. Yeah, it's just funny. It's just really funny to see how people react. Like, so I'll just be walking down the street and I'll just say hello to every person I meet, just to see how they react. So you get like a lot of heads down or a lot of people smiling, people saying hello, and you go, it's not that bad, it's not at all. You're like, and it's really interesting. The other point you brought there is like, you could walk down the street, people could look at you. You could either think they think I'm fit, or you could think they think I'm a weirdo. Yeah. It's your choice which one you decide that is, because it's in your head. Yeah. So why would you not choose the good one? Yeah, exactly. And you're just going to go. Actually, probably the more you think about it, the more cowardly you're going to walk through town. Probably the more people are going to look at you. So you look like a hunchback walking around. He's looking at me. Head's going either way. Looks kind of miserable and not depressing. I think the same with being embarrassed. Like I hate when people come up to you and they're like, "Oh, aren't you really embarrassed by that?" And I'm like, "No." I just don't care. Like, it's funny. Don't care. Exactly. Whereas if I think you've just got to like not deep things as well. Like especially in Durham, like everyone loves to have an opinion on what you've done. What's she doing? She did that the other day, guys. She walked down through town thinking everyone thought she was fit. Yeah, exactly. That's good. The latest thing. Yeah, exactly. But if you just keep telling yourself like, oh, it doesn't really matter. It's not that deep. You are going to die. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not. Oh no, some random person who doesn't give a shit about me had an opinion. Okay, that's funny. Like, whatever, have your opinion. Yeah, because I found I used to like completely ruin my own day by thinking, like I'd wake up and I'd be like, I said something in a really embarrassing tone of voice, or I made a joke and no one laughed at it. Like,
think of all the times that like other people have done that, and you've just like you can't even remember because you haven't noticed.
You're not thinking, yeah,
like,
oh yeah, my mate made a shit pun earlier.
Yeah.
What a dick! Like you're not gonna do that, are you? Like it's not.
Exactly. So.
But yeah, like I just think that really people just need to understand that no one cares that much.
Yeah.
Obviously, like people care about you. I'm not saying they don't. I'm saying no one cares if you make a mistake that much. So just make the mistakes, take the risk, take that risk. Do you know what I mean? Like take the risk, because if you take no risk, there's no reward. You just stay in your little box. It's like, okay, there's no possibility of anything good happening. But if you take the risk, there's a possibility of something good happening.
Yeah, completely.
So why not? So there's two outcomes. Sort of the two things. There's either one of there's no possibility of anything cool, or there is a possibility.
Yeah.
So why not?
Take
the possibility?
Yeah.
Exactly. One last thing I'd probably talk about now is the concept of being busy. Why do you feel why do you feel your schedule so much? Like what's that about?
There's different aspects to it. Like as I said, like I've always been this busy. Like I love being busy. I find things interesting. I want to do them. Like I find it hard to not do something that I'm interested in, because I'm like, well, I could be good at this. Why aren't I doing that? Like I used to do a lot of choral singing, and now I don't, and I always beat myself up, and I'm like, but I can do it. Like why aren't I doing it? Yeah. And I'm like, well, I just literally do not have any time at all. But yeah, I think I just really enjoy ending the day being exhausted and having like achieved things each day, and I think it just makes me feel like I'm living my life properly and fully and enjoying it really. And I think also secondary, I've always seen my parents being very, very busy, so I've always been in a very busy atmosphere in my house. Like my parents are always joking, like they just can't relax in any sort of a way, and I think I've always just sort of done the same as them in that sense. And same with my brothers and people I know. We're all very like busy people, and I enjoy that atmosphere.
Nice.
Really.
So so I'm very much similar in that way. That sort of right. This is the next thing. Got to do it.
Yeah.
When you achieve something, would you say your mind goes right next thing, or are you more like right, let's take it a bit now, we've done something good, chill? What's the sort of rationale?
Yeah, it's very much like I actually have to quite push myself to like congratulate myself on things.
Yeah.
Like when I do things, I don't really go, oh, that was a really big achievement, like you can have a night off. Like I just go, well, okay, that happened.
Done. Next thing.
Great, that was really cool. I don't. Yeah, like if I like, I'll like be like, oh, I'll celebrate it at this point, and then I just
when I do this, I'll be happy.
Yeah, and then I just never do celebrate it in any sort of way. But I think perhaps that's because I almost reward myself with the next thing. Like my housemates are always annoyed at me because I can't sit down and watch a movie or something with them. But to me, that's not a reward to myself. That's just, they're like, oh, you're not relaxing, you haven't done anything, you're just still doing stuff. But to me, the relaxing is being busy, if that makes sense. Like I've my reward, say, for doing all my work would be to go and like, I don't know, go and do my lacrosse match or something like that, and that relaxes me, even though it's like an active activity, rather than sitting down and having to watch something that I don't really want to watch, because I won't relax. I'll just be thinking about everything else I want to be doing.
Yeah, so that's an interesting sort of concept of active relaxation there. And I'll tell you a little story from when I did my sort of flying scholarship. So it was a massive thing for me when I did it, because it was like my first time flying by myself, because I've been working so hard for years to get to this point, because with the sort of air cadets, it's like really prestigious to sort of get the flying scholarship, and when you do, they're like, whoa, you got one of them. I remember being told, you'll never get it, it's the negativity of other people, whatever. And then I got on it, did it, because I was like drilled in, getting it done, and I did it, I was like, oh, right, what's the next thing? And then my mate's like, what the fuck? Because he didn't go solo, so he didn't do it. And it's like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean, what's wrong with you? I was like, you've just done something that, like, barely any people do. Yeah. In less time than anyone else. And you don't, you're not celebrating it. Why don't you care? And obviously I did care a lot, loads, so much. But I just didn't express it in that way.
Yeah.
And I just think like I've learned this like the hard way. Gratitude is so important. Then whatever form that takes, if that's you writing down, I'm grateful for X, Y, Z, or you praying, whatever, there has to be a mechanism that does that, because, you know, just like even being here is mental. Like the amount of stuff you can do, and like, you know, even this, like, whoa, like this podcast here, what, you know, like flying in the aircraft by myself at 17, like, whoa, like not many people do that. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. Like all the things you do, it's like whatever, and it's like you actually do have to go, like, you actually did that, like, or it's that fine line between like being like, you know, having a big ego and like actually being grateful for shit, because sometimes being humble isn't a good thing when you're putting yourself down when you are better than that. So I think being humble is very kind of hard for me to sort of understand, because you're trying to obviously back yourself.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
but also not shout about it. I think just knowing your capability, but not, I think showing, not doing, not sort of telling. I think that's better as well.
Yeah, completely.
So if you can sort of do, but equally know you can back yourself and speak highly of yourself, because another thing I read as well is like the inner warrior knows when you chat shit about yourself, even like in a joking way. Because imagine your mind's like the sun down there with a little pen. You're like, right, he said he's nervous. Okay, next time he speaks to someone, he's going to be nervous. Okay, cool, write it down.
Yeah.
So your mind tells you that, and that's what produces. Because it's just like a box with a.
Yeah, completely. You know. Like I said to someone yesterday, literally, I was like, they like made a joke, and I was like, oh, like it was about themselves. Like they were like, oh, I just look so ugly, and I was like, no, and they were like, no, I know, I do. And then they were like, oh, do you not make jokes like that? And I was like, no, I'll never make a joke that puts myself down, because why would I put myself down? Like plenty of people can put you down, and I think even though they're like, well, it's just a joke, and I was like, well, it is just a joke, but you're telling yourself that you're worth less, or sometimes like I'll make a comment, and I remember my friend, they were like, oh, came across a bit cocky, and I was like, well, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna lie. Shit, am I, like, yeah, I'm not gonna go like, oh, I did a really rubbish job of that or something. But yeah, so I think really how you project yourself is really important for your self-worth of how you feel, like you say, feel within, because you can't believe that you're fantastic at something if you just keep telling others you're rubbish at it.
Even if you're objectively amazing at something, it doesn't matter. If you tell people you're shit, your mind remembers that, and that's what is produced.
Yeah.
But if you are rubbish at the thing objectively, and you tell people you're really good at it, you're going to improve. So if you're already good and you tell people you're good, you're going to get better. Like, it's all, imagine just the head, just like your mind just has this like literally like this thing, it's output box.
Yeah.
What goes in comes out. You know, if you're, you know, if you're feeding it rubbish, negative thoughts, negativity is going to come out. Whether that's subconsciously or consciously. A lot of it is subconscious, because most of the brain is subconscious. So that's what's going to manifest itself. And, you know, that self-deprecating humour, obviously it's funny to an extent, but a lot of the things people do, they don't understand the consequence of said action.
Yeah.
Because, you know, everything has a really big consequence. So, like, you know, you saying, oh, look ugly today, your head's going to go, right, okay, we perceive ourselves as ugly, therefore, you know, lower the serotonin, lower the dopamine, we need to sort of improve this, we've got to have, or buy this new item. So a lot of it comes from sort of capitalism, like marketing and stuff. But, you know, really going, I am valuable, you know, no matter what. You're valuable right now. If you do nothing, it doesn't matter. You're an individual just for being alive. Wow.
Yeah.
Like, you're getting through the day, fucking hell, that's mad.
Yeah.
And like, not even if you're doing these mad things, if you're doing just anything, just like sick, you know, because like it is rough, you know. Obviously, we're in sort of like quite a privileged position here. Even like this, like, God help other people, like what's going on, you know. You just got to try and make the best of what you've sort of got.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the key things I've taken from this, sort of, you know, feel free to jump in, but like, I think things I've taken from this is like, what we don't know, we fear, and what we don't know, we fill in the gaps. So make sure if there is a gap in your knowledge, don't let your mind perceive yourself or others in a negative way. Fill the gap with something positive, because the outcome's going to be very different, and it's your choice. So why not choose something good?
Yeah.
You know, it's like I saw this other thing. I was like, oh, it's all in my head. So why don't I just choose it to be cool? And I'm like, yeah, you should. Like,
yeah.
And there's this other thing as well. Is just you create your own reality. So create a good one.
Yeah, completely. Like, you have complete autonomy to the extent of what you're doing with your life. So if you're looking at someone and being like, well, I want to do that, then do it. Like, you've got to keep pushing. You'll be fine.
And always take that risk, because you never know what's going to happen. You're one conversation away from, you know, a new friend. You're one conversation away from starting something new, and you're one conversation from maybe meeting, you know, that person in your life. You never know. So take that risk. If your head tells you to do something, no, more importantly, your heart. If your heart tells you to do something, follow it, because it knows more than you, more than your mind can ever know.
Yeah.
So follow your heart and take that risk. This has been the Lawless podcast. Thank you very much, Annabel, for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
And we'll see you next week.